Guys, so I want to go over how to set up a play blast and also how to do some compressions for that play blast. Okay, so let's just set up a simple animation. First off, I'm just going to come in and set up my camera like we've talked about in class. Okay, and I'm just going to drop in a simple polysphere. Move that over here. I'm going to click S to set a keyframe. Comes about frame 160. S to set another keyframe. Let's go to frame 120. And S to set another keyframe. And now we have an animation. And so in order to do a play blast for this, what we want to do is we just want to come up here to Windows and down to Play Blast, and we just want to click this little box next to it. And that should pull up this window. And so we're going to keep it on time slider for now. Again, you could always use start to end and set some things, but we're going to keep it at time slider. Let's go ahead and keep it at AVI. And then let's also just make sure that this quality is set to 100. This scale is set to a full 1. Let's make sure that we've got save to file check mark for that. And then we're going to come here and we're going to click the browse button. And then from there, we can choose where we want that to save out at. And so I'm going to save that to here. And I'm just going to overwrite that. So I'm going to call this PB001. Okay. And from there, I'm going to click save. Since I already have it in there, it's wanting to know if I want to replace it, and I'm just going to say yes. Okay. So we have that all set up, and now all we need to do is just come in over here and click this little play blast button. And again, since I already have it there, it's just wanting to make sure that I want to overwrite it. I'm just going to say yes. And there we go. And now we have this movie file. And I can double check that and from where I saved it just to make sure that all looks good. And it does. So we have this animation. But one thing you'll notice is the size of this file is fairly large. So let's look at a couple of ways that we could compress this so it's much smaller. And so I'm going to go and load up Media Encoder. And I'm just going to simply drag and drop this right into Media Encoder here. And then from here, this is set up to MP4 just naturally in the H.264 codec, which is great. I'm just going to need to click here and then go ahead and set up where that's going, and it's already preset to kind of come here. So I'm just going to set this to, we're going to call this compress 1. Okay. From here I can just click save, and so that's set up. We can see it's an MP4. We can see we've got that set to H.264. That's all good. And so in order to compress this for Media Encoder now, all we need to do is come up here and click this little green play button. And we can see it just compressed. And so now if we come over here and we look at this, you can see that this file size for our original play blast is much larger than this compressed version. And then we can also look at our compressed version and see that we've still got a nice play blast version, but it's compressed to a much smaller file size. Okay, for those of you that are going to be using Handbrake, very similar technique. We just need to open up Handbrake. Once in Handbrake, we just need to drag and drop our play blast, the big guy over here. And there's a couple things I tend to set up over here. First, it's always a good idea just to come over here to your video and just make sure that your frame rate is set to the same thing. So this we had a frame rate of 24 frames per second in mine, so we'll just change that to that. And then under this video tabs as well, we'll just change this to constant quality of 10. Okay, and from here we just need to come down here and click this little browse button. And we'll just name this PB01 compress, and we'll do 2. And we'll click save. Okay. And then from here, let's go ahead and click that little play button because we've set it to where we want it to go through the browse. And now we're going to click the start encode green button. And we can see down here that it went, and it is now done. And so again, I can see I've got this compressed version 2, and it's again at a much smaller file size than the original PlayBlast. So if I open this one up, I can double check and see how that is looking. And so here I can see that we've got a nice PlayBlast for this video. And so those are two ways to compress that. And then again, we covered how to create a PlayBlast in the first place. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful.